Thanks, Lynn. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to talk a little bit about the MAC, because when two or three are gathered together, we can never resist the temptation to tell people about the MAC, which is the Metropolitan Arts Centre. And then I'm going to talk about why we think it's important that we have a volunteer programme as part of the MAC's operations. Talk a wee bit about the volunteer roles we have, and then just a few tips or ideas. So that should take me to about 12:15. And then at that point, are there any questions? It's just that Lynn kept talking about Anne's session. It's not a session, it's a 15-minute talk. So expectations lowered, please. This is a computer-generated image of the MAC, the Metropolitan Arts Centre. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the MAC in the first instance is because I'm sort of making the assumption that some of you might not yet know about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because it doesn't actually, we're not open for business. It's being constructed as we speak. It's a significant new arts centre in the city centre of Belfast. I just think this slide is sometimes useful because it helps locate you and let you know where the MAC is. I'm going to throw some stats at you around the building process and all the rest of it, so come up to me at the coffee break if you miss any of it. This is the building. It's got a 100-week programme. It's almost finished. The building is due to be completed on the 23rd of January coming. The building itself is 5,500 square metres in its full glory, which is the same as 65 three-bedroom semi-detached houses. So to say the MAC is large, significant and ambitious is a bit of an understatement. Northern Ireland and Ireland hasn't ever had a purpose-built arts centre of this size and scale and ambition. Just to let you know, this is the Cathedral, St Anne's Cathedral in the Cathedral Quarter. This is the BELB building, and just here is the University of Ulster, the Belfast campus, which is due to significantly increase over the next 10 years as they close down Jordanstown and bring all those students in. So this whole area of the centre of Belfast is going to dramatically transform. This is a little view of St Anne's Square, which is a new square which has, I think people are beginning to catch on that it's there. It's beginning to really, these are going to be cafes, bars, these are offices and private accommodation. So it's a little nest of activity right in the city centre, with the MAC forming one of the four squares. So just to quickly run through what's in the MAC. It's got two theatres, a 350-seat space and a 120-seat space. 3 visual art galleries, which make it Northern Ireland's flagship contemporary art gallery space. It's got 4 offices for 4 resident arts organisations. I can't look at the pictures and think of the list, so I need to do one or the other. 2 theatres, 3 galleries, offices for 4 resident arts groups, 4 multi-purpose spaces, rehearsal, dance studio, workshop rooms, an artist in residence studio space, offices for the arts centre's staff, obviously, a couple of boardrooms, and a cafe and bar. So it's really big. Just for your information, the theatres, 350 and 120. This is, I think that's the 3. No, it's not. It's the 120. The 350 retracts back. Some of the seats retract back to allow for 550 people standing for music gigs and the like. This is a computer-generated image of the closed control space, or the tall gallery, as we'll call it. A closed control gallery means that you can control the heat and light and humidity in the space, which allows you to borrow priceless artworks. We've never had a contemporary gallery space in Northern Ireland that can do this. And that basically means that you kind of leapfrog into a different bracket. You're sort of in a higher rarefied group of galleries that can borrow works that at the moment people are having to travel to Dublin and London to see. Now they're going to be in the heart of our city. This is the tall gallery, which is, it's much bigger than that. That doesn't do it justice at all. It's very, very significant. And the reason I wanted to just do a quick jog trot through the MAC is because you kind of need to understand what the MAC is in order to understand why we want to have volunteers. It's an interesting, this little card that's on your tables. We involve volunteers because, and I've been sort of wrestling with that concept for the last couple of days, trying to come up with a succinct form of words that explains why there was never any question that we were going to have a volunteer programme in the MAC. And it came down to a number of things. One of them was that volunteers come in like just a tsunami of energy and positive energy almost always, because they're there for particular reasons. They're there for the same reasons that we are. We in the MAC are absolutely committed to delivering a world-class service to all our customers, whether they're casual and curious visitors who want to have a nosy because it's a new building and they're dead keen to know what's in it, or people who've literally been waiting for years for a home of art in the centre of the city that shows the best that the world has to offer, as well as showcasing local art. Those volunteers come in and they're not tired like the rest of us are. They haven't had to build the damn thing. They get, and it's right and appropriate, they come in because they really value what the MAC represents and stands for. And there's huge energy and good stuff that comes with that. They're not sort of fettered by the day-to-day running of the venue. They can come in and remind us, and suppose in some ways, why it is that we're there in the first instance. But I also remembered something, and I'm going to absolutely sort of reduce down a very significant and highly statistically robust piece of research that the National Endowment for the Arts did. The National Endowment for the Arts is the United States' Arts Council. And the National Endowment, the NEA, did a piece of research specifically on volunteering quite some time ago. And it's a very, as I say, a very robust piece of work. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit of empirical, anecdotal evidence from it. And basically, they examined volunteering in the arts and came up with such skewed data that they didn't believe it. It talked about how all the volunteers that they had examined were more likely to be socially mobile, more likely to be healthy, more likely to be in employment, less likely to underachieve at school, more likely to be in a higher an upwardly mobile trajectory throughout their lives. And they just completely scratched it and thought they'd asked the wrong questions or evaluated the analysis incorrectly, because they thought, right, we've gone to volunteers and they are already all upwardly mobile, they're already from a particular social demographic. But actually that wasn't the case at all. When they went back and re-examined it and re-ran the data, across the board, they were working in some very disadvantaged neighbourhoods, and people who volunteer tend to be of the most highly motivated, most energetic parts of our society, and that's what we have the opportunity, if we run a really well-integrated volunteer programme, we have the opportunity to tap into that. It's just too good an opportunity to miss, I suppose. I wanted to just quickly talk about the different volunteer roles that we have. Well, why to do so? Yeah, why volunteer at the MAC is kind of it appears to be simplistic, to do something different, to develop your skills and be part of this new leading edge venue in Belfast. That's really just scraping the tip of it. I was involved in another arts organisation years ago, and we had a very active volunteer programme, and we did this awful thing for years, which was that we valued our volunteers so much that we desperately wanted to, we had all sorts of benefits, minor benefits. We paid their expenses. We gave them tickets for the shows that they didn't have to pay for, that they could transfer to friends or use themselves. And we involved them in activities like the dreaded Christmas do, that it took us too many years to work out that they hated it as much as we hated it. And we would flog that dead horse, I would say for 3 years too long, until we actually took a breath and thought, we're working completely on a misconception here. Because if you're going to give back by doing a social function, that suggests that you think the motivating factors for your volunteers are around socialising, making friends and all the rest of it. And that was completely wrong. That's not what our volunteers were there for. When we asked them, we found out that our volunteers were there because they highly valued what we did. It was back to your 2 slides, Lynn, the 28% that really valued what we were doing. They wanted to be part of our mission. And then the 50%, I think it was, who wanted to they wanted to make a positive difference. So we were in the top 78% of people why they were volunteering, and we thought it was because they wanted to make friends. So I suppose the simple but enduring lesson that we've taken on board is talk to them, do as much research with your volunteers as you do with your audiences, and that'll be part of why they volunteer, but it'll only be part of it. These are the different, we've sort of branded, for want of a better word, the different kinds of roles that we're going to have in the MAC. MAC Navigator, basically, we are very, very committed in the MAC to providing a warm and welcoming atmosphere to people when they come into the building. And we are very, very conscious of the fact that people think that people who work in the arts are a bit mad. They're a bit left of centre, they wear floaty scarves, and they're not really connected. That's a really dangerous misconception that is obviously completely wrong, but also doesn't help us in the arts at all, because people self-select out of it all the time. They think it's not for them. When in fact, if you ask people if they ever go to the movies, or they've ever read a book, or they've ever seen a picture, and if they had a good reaction to that, of course they have had. There are other elements of contemporary art in particular that are more challenging for people, and there's no denying that, no getting away from it, and no shirking from it. The fact that the media in particular, for instance, has taken a particular position on contemporary visual art, conceptual practice, and pokes a bit of fun at it. So we have to sort of work against that and work doubly hard to brand ourselves and communicate with our customers, potential and existing, although our existing customers don't actually come into the building because it's not open, in a way that sort of breaks down those barriers. And Navigators are going to be one of the ways in which they do that, but only one of the ways. And basically we want a team of volunteers who will meet people when they come in. They won't rush up to people and freak them out, but they will be there whenever people come into this significant, exciting, beautiful modern building, just to welcome them and to ask them if they'd like any help, to help them navigate round the building and to find the different spaces until they feel at home in the space. And the genesis for this Navigator scheme is the Salford, the Lowry Centre in Salford in Manchester. And any time I've gone into the Lowry, it's a very big building also, any time I've gone into it, the first face I've always seen has inevitably been a grey-haired, smiling man. It's a different man all the time. And they are so lovely. And they're just there at a little desk inside the door. They're not box office. They're just our version of the Navigators. And they just help you into the space. He could direct me to the box office. He will phone somebody up in the offices. And it's so different from the experience so many of us have had in other arts organisations where they're really snippy. Really hoity-toity, arty-farty. And I've experienced it the way the rest of you have, I'm sure. Will I name them? IMA, the Irish Museum of Modern Art, not that long ago. They have done a really interesting job in terms of the information they provide on the visual art exhibitions is now dramatically different than it was about 5 years ago. And it's really colloquial, almost vernacular language, and it's talking to most of us in a way that makes sense, whereas previously artist statements were completely impenetrable. But unfortunately that move, that's obviously that desire within the curatorial team and the curatorial practice, which is to reach out, hasn't quite made it to the people behind the reception desk. So that if you ask them for change for the lockers, you'd have thought, well, let's not go what you would think. So, it's very important that whatever your values are in an organisation, bleed through all aspects of the operation. I'm telling you stuff I know you know, but that absolutely and totally that it's reflected in your volunteers. And of course, the only way volunteers can ever come up to that high standard is if you train them and if you support them and if you give them the information. It's a wee bit frightening for people like me who have, and the small team who've been working for a long time on trying to get the MAC out of the ground, trying to get it made real, because this is a closely held, very genuinely and passionately felt ideal, which is about world-class art in the centre of the city and people coming in a way which makes sense to them and not necessarily only to the artists. Passing on that to volunteers means that you have got to give them the tools in order to bring it forward. They can't be expected to instinctively know about it. Gallery navigators are what you may know as invigilators. Invigilators are the guys who stand quite often with a peak cap on and their hands behind their backs in a uniform at the side of the space, and they're a wee bit frightening because they're going to shout at you if you touch the artwork. Our gallery navigators are going to be young people, probably recruited from the further and higher and tertiary level education system, who want to be part of the MAC experience. And it's quite difficult actually, because whether you know it or not, you're used to going into visual art galleries and sort of being left on your own. So now this slightly interactive experience, you have to find the right level for it, because I've been in a beautiful space in Birmingham, where the navigator was a wee bit too, the invigilator was a wee bit too keen, and I was kind of quizzically looking at the whatever art it was, and I was quite happy just to do it myself. So that's a very hard call for navigator, or where are we? yeah, gallery navigators to work out, but we'll help them do that. The workshop support, I think, is probably one of the funnest volunteering opportunities at the MAC, because it's being right there in the workshops, the many hundreds of workshops we're going to do with older people, school kids, family groups, kids from particular demographic groups, ethnic minorities, kids from children and young people from very disadvantaged backgrounds. So these volunteers are in that workshop with the workshop leaders and the workshop artists, obviously, and they're looking at the side of the margins of the workshop just to be sure that everybody is happy and comfortable. They're doing the sort of less exciting stuff as well, such as helping sort of kit out the room and then put it away. But they're part of the workshop, which is, I think, going to be key, because quite often volunteers are given the grunge work and the dirty jobs, but don't get to do the fun stuff. So we're going to lump the two together. And then front of house support, which is, as you'd expect, tearing people's ticket stubs, helping them find their seats in the theatres, ushering, being the people who help get you into your seats. So those are the roles that we have in the MAC. I'll just go back there. What was I going to say? How are we going to recruit our volunteers? We're going to go out and do a series of community roadshows throughout Northern Ireland in the run up to the opening of the MAC. And part of that community roadshow will be about generating and recruiting volunteers. We're going to recruit through schools and colleges and further and higher educations, and then also we're going to work with Volunteer Now. And we had a great day in the summer with Volunteer Now, where we worked with the over 50s, and we recruited quite a few volunteers through that. I think one of the taglines was "Get Mactive." Get active. We made it "Get Mactive" because we do Mactivists. We've Macademy. We're going a bit Mac-tastic in a way that probably needs to be pulled back a bit. But finding ways, helping people understand that there isn't this secret that everybody who works in the arts knows, and if you don't work in the arts, you don't know it, is absolutely critical to business success for us. And bringing a team of volunteers in and giving them a talk on how to put on an exhibition, how to go around an exhibition to get the most out of it, why things are framed the way they are or not, why they're positioned the way they are, what the curator thinks whenever he or she is curating the exhibition, how you transport priceless artworks, all that behind the scenes stuff that people are really interested in, that can really enrich people's experience, is critical to help us break down barriers. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Does anybody have any questions? I'm on time. Or maybe the questions that come out after. I can't see if your hand's up and waving. I can't see you, so no. Okay, look forward to having a further chat. Thank you.
When does the MAC open?
Thank you. It opens on the 19th of April for the visual art. We launched the visual art programme then, and the 22nd of April for the live event. So it's open on the 19th of April. We'll launch sales in the week beginning the 23rd of January, and then you'll find out all there is to find out about the MAC. Do you want some of the boring stats? It cost 18 million. 400 people have been employed in its construction. And just in case you think we're insane, we know there's a recession on. The MAC is being built and it's entirely additional to the existing infrastructure. The reason it's there is because it's needed. Endless amounts of research have been done showing that there is a very significant hidden and latent audience that isn't going to the arts in Northern Ireland who would go if the venues weren't rubbish. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.